All right, let's talk about something that so many of us will go through, but almost nobody prepares for. Helping an aging parent move. It's this huge, emotional life event. And getting it wrong, well, it can be incredibly, incredibly expensive. Today, we're going to show you exactly how to avoid the biggest mistakes. So let me just start by asking you this. What if helping your mom or dad move ended up costing your family an extra $50,000? I know, it sounds like a crazy number, right? But for way too many families, this is not an exaggeration. It's the reality. And look, this isn't some made-up figure. We're talking about real money, real home equity that just disappears. Not because the housing market crashed, but because of a handful of small, totally preventable mistakes that get made when everyone is stressed out and under pressure. So, let's get right into it. We're going to break down the 5 most common and most costly mistakes that families make. Think of these as the hidden traps that can completely derail the entire process and, honestly, drain away your family's hard-earned equity.
Okay, mistake number 1. This one feels like the safest choice, but it's actually the most dangerous of all. It's the "we'll do it later" trap. Procrastination. It's so tempting to put it off, but trust me, it is the single most expensive mistake you can possibly make.
Because here's what happens when you wait. A crisis hits. It could be a fall, a sudden health scare, and now you're forced to make huge financial decisions under the absolute worst circumstances. All your negotiation power? Gone. Your ability to think rationally and clearly? Out the window. And that's exactly when you start overspending and accepting terrible offers. All right, moving on to mistake number 2, the DIY delusion. This is that little voice in your head that says, hey, we could save a ton of money if we just manage all of this ourselves. We'll handle the contractors, the real estate stuff, the whole shebang. It seems smart, but it's a very dangerous illusion. And here's why. Without being an expert in this field, how are you supposed to know if a contractor's quote is inflated by 30%? Or spot a predatory clause buried deep in a real estate contract? The bottom line is this. Your knowledge gap is exactly where your equity disappears. What you think you're saving by doing it yourself is often lost 10 times over to one bad deal. Now for mistake number 3, and we see this one constantly. We call it the HGTV Effect. We've all seen those home renovation shows, right? Where a giant, expensive remodel leads to a massive sale price. But in the real world, especially for this kind of transition, that is almost never the right move.
Let's just look at the simple math here. You think you need to spend 40 grand on a brand new kitchen to sell the house? But the reality is, most buyers in this market are just looking for a home that is clean, safe, and functional. So spending $30,000 on updates that only add $15,000 in value, well, that's not a win. That's a $15,000 loss. That's money that should be going towards your parents' future care.
Okay, mistake number 4 is a big one. Trusting the wrong kind of expert. Look, your average real estate agent or one of those we buy ugly houses investors, they usually have just one tool in their toolbox, and there's a good chance it's not the right tool for your family's specific situation.
And the cost of that bad advice can be absolutely staggering. A traditional agent might only know how to list the house on the market, which may not be the best path. An investor's only goal, let's be honest, is to buy it for as little as humanly possible. Choosing the wrong strategy here, it can literally cost you up to half of your home's true market value.
And that brings us to our final mistake, which really ties all the others together. It's simply not having a system. Without a clear, step-by-step process to follow, families are basically just guessing. You're trying to navigate one of the most complex financial and emotional journeys of your life completely blind.
And the result of not having a system? It's chaos, pure and simple. You end up making repairs that don't actually add any value, family arguments flare up, everybody gets completely overwhelmed and burned out, and in the end, you just leave a huge amount of money on the table because the process wasn't managed the right way.
Now listen, if you're listening to this and recognizing your own family in any of these mistakes, I want you to hear me clearly. It is not your fault. This is an incredibly complex, emotionally draining process. You're not supposed to be an expert at this. The system just isn't built for families to figure this out all on their own.
So how do you actually avoid all these traps? Well, the most effective way is to get yourself a playbook. Something that replaces all that chaos and uncertainty with a clear, proven system that can guide you step by step, making sure every single decision is proactive, not just a reaction to a crisis.
So what does a good playbook actually give you? Well, first, it gives you a clear timeline, so you always know what to do and when. Second, a proven system for everything from decluttering to selling. Third, and this is huge, it teaches you how to protect yourself and spot scams from a mile away. And finally, it gives you access to expert guidance, so you have a real advocate in your corner.
Now, for anyone who prefers a ready-made guide, there are some really great resources out there. One example is something called the Senior Transition Blueprint. It's a complete system designed by Ryan Riggins, who's a licensed real estate broker that specializes in this exact kind of transition. It's basically built on all the principles we just talked about.
This particular system comes in a few different formats. There's a quick start guide if you just need the basics, a premium option with one-on-one coaching for complex situations, and then there's the complete blueprint, which is a full-blown online course that walks you through every single step in detail.
So, here's the bottom line. You really do have a choice here. You can wait for a crisis to happen and then be forced to react, or you can take control of the situation right now, today, by getting informed and putting a real plan in place.
Whether you build your own playbook from scratch or decide to use a guide, a fantastic first step is just to get more info. You can actually download a free starter guide that goes way deeper on these topics. Just go to rigginsstrategicsolutions.com/start.
And hey, if you're already in the thick of this and you're feeling overwhelmed, you might need more personalized advice. You can also book a totally free, no-pressure discovery call with their team to talk about your situation. You can find that at rigginsstrategicsolutions.com/call.
Which really brings us to the final question you need to ask yourself. Now that you know the risks, now that you've seen how much is truly at stake, can your family really afford to try and navigate this journey without a map?